So what is BodiTrak? BodiTrak is a portable ground force reaction plate that allows us to measure our golfers doing three things throughout their golf swing. It helps golfers understand how their feet are connecting to the ground and maintaining balance. With this screen, it shows us how much our golfer is moving laterally, forwards and backwards. It shows us the velocity that somebody is moving forwards and backwards with this screen. And then with this screen, it shows us how much the golfer is pressing into the ground throughout the golf swing sequence. Each one of these components can help a golfer understand how to improve and how to change his or her technique. In many ways, it's like an X-ray. It allows us to dive in deeper into some of the hidden pieces of your golf DNA to help us give you a better understanding of how to be a better golfer. So let's take a look to see how BodiTrak can help us understand how and what we do to stay in balance. First things first, up on the top part of the screen, on the right-hand side of the screen, you will see the right foot. I know that does not match up down below with the golfer's left foot, but that's how the software works. So the right side of the screen is the right foot, the left side of the screen is the left foot. The heels are on the bottom, closer to the 52 and the 48. The toes are closer to the BodiTrak. That little white dot represents the center of pressure, which is very similar to the center of mass, except for when vertical components come in to play. We may discuss that here later. But let's watch this golfer and watch him how he starts his golf swing. Number one, he's favoring his left side at the address position and his left heel at the address position, 52 and 61. He has a little more pressure on his right toe in relationship to his backswing foot. Now, what does this golfer do throughout his motion? So he starts centered, as we said. His center of pressure moves more towards trail foot. That's not a big surprise. Moves back towards the middle here for a second, and then starts to shoot out towards that right toe. And more importantly, really starts to shoot out towards that left toe on the downswing sequence. So if you think about trying to stay in balance and how your mass is moving, your center pressure is moving towards that left toe, that you're going to probably have to do some things dynamically to make sure that you don't fall over, especially considering that the golf club is going to be trying to pull you in the direction of the target and out towards the toes. That's just kind of the shape of what the golf club does for many golfers on their downswing. So this golfer is going to have to do something pretty darn dynamic based upon his first downswing sequence and how it moves out towards his toe to stay in balance. Now let's take a look at the lateral component of BodiTrak. And you'll see this graph here. It basically measures just how much laterally your center of pressure moves both backwards and forwards in centimeters. So as our golfer moves backwards here, if we stop right here on that white line, this golfer has moved 6.6 centimeters towards his backswing foot with his center of pressure. Again, we see, especially from our little white ball that we saw on the first screen, that it moves a little bit more towards the middle part of his stance again. So now it's only 1.6 backwards of his initial start point. And moves now back to 7.9 centimeters away from the initial start point. And then moves significantly forward here. So much so, he is 16 centimeters, a little over 16 centimeters forward of his initial start point. And if he keeps moving forward, he's just going to fall flat on his face and timber, which is to a large degree why he does not, and we'll tell you why here in another second, when his center of pressure starts backing upwards a little bit, and he is now here when he's in balance or relatively in good balance, only have moved 9 centimeters forward. This next screen gives us a little bit of an idea of how fast his center of pressure is moving from a velocity standpoint. So the fun and interesting thing, I think, for all of us to be able to understand here is what takes place here during the transition. At least that's what we're going to discuss. Because you're going to see here that this golfer's center of pressure starts moving drastically towards the target, and he hasn't even completed his arm swing. So there's his arms continuing to move backwards, but look how his center of pressure is starting to move forwards. Here, in fact, now is his peak of how fast he moves laterally towards the target, 212 centimeters per second. So again, this just gives us some really clear and neat insights as to how this golfer stays in balance and how his feet work with the ground with the BodiTrak. Now let's try and tie this all in with the vertical component, which for this golfer is the dynamic recovery sequence that he makes to help him stay in balance, as well as help him hit the right part of the golf ball and create more speed. How does he do it? We know from this screen that the golfer's center of pressure right around here starts to shoot drastically out towards the toes. So if I go ahead and click on my BodiTrak app here and get to the vertical component, look how that little sequence right here now starts the golfer pressing drastically on his lead foot here. You can see that represented by the blue line. So he has that pressure moving towards that lead toe. He starts to really press hard on that lead toe now to help him jump upwards and backwards to make sure that he doesn't fall over in direction of the target. It's absolutely amazing what the human body does while trying to strike a golf ball. It's fascinating. So in that sequence, as he starts to stand upwards and backwards, this is an extremely high measurement where this golfer is pressing 1.71 times his body weight to be able to make that incredible dynamic recovery. Now that upward motion helps him match up his relatively early release pattern, and that upward motion also helps him with his delayed rotational sequence on his downswing. Right here when the left arm is parallel to the ground on his downswing, his left hip is closer to the camera than his right hip is. So it's an incredibly unique and dynamic component that this golfer does to help him stay in balance, hit the right part of the golf ball, and maximize some speed components into his golf swing. So in review, BodiTrak has the capability of measuring how your feet interact with the ground and how you stay in balance with this screen, your lateral components from a distance perspective with this screen, how fast you move laterally in this screen, and how much you press off the ground in this screen. Each one of those components is utilized and analyzed to help us give you a better understanding of how to move forward and improve with your overall technique and motion.